Okay, great. We are here. Hopefully, we will not be interrupted with whatever's happening on Zoom, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we will start reading, of course, in Miracles, Chapter 1, The Illusion of Needs. You who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness. No learning is acquired by anyone unless he wants to learn it and believes in some way that he needs it. While lack does not exist in the creation of God, it is very apparent in what you have made. It is, in fact, the essential difference between them. Lack implies that you would be better off in a state somehow different from the one you are in. Until the separation, which is the meaning of the fall, nothing was lacking. There were no needs at all. Needs arise only when you deprive yourself. You act according to the particular order of needs you establish. This, in turn, depends on your perception of what you are. A sense of separation from God is the only lack you really need correct. This sense of separation would never have arisen if you had not distorted your perception of truth and had thus perceived yourself as lacking. The idea of order of needs arose because, having made this fundamental error, you had already fragmented yourself into levels with different needs. As you integrate, you become one, and your needs become one accordingly. Unified needs lead to unified action, because this produces a lack of conflict. The idea of orders of need, which follows from the original error that one can be separated from God, requires correction at its own level before the error of perceiving levels at all can be corrected. You cannot behave effectively while you function on different levels. However, while you do, correction must be introduced vertically from the bottom up. This is because you think you live in space, where concepts such as up and down are meaningful. Ultimately, space is as meaningless as time. Both are merely beliefs. The real purpose of this world is to use it to correct your unbelief. You can never control the effects of fear yourself because you made fear and you believe in what you made. In attitude, then, though not in content, you resemble your creator, who has perfect faith in his creations because he created them. Belief produces the acceptance of existence. That is why you can believe that what no one else thinks is true. It is true for you because it was made by you. All aspects of fear are untrue because they do not exist at the creative level and therefore do not exist at all. To whatever extent you are willing to submit your beliefs to this test, to that extent are your perceptions corrected. In sorting out the false from the true, the miracle proceeds along these lines. Perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. Believe this and you will be free. Only God can establish this solution, and this faith is his gift. That was profound. Any comments about that? What do we think? What do we think?
Sounds like basic principles.
It does. I love that it says that in attitude, then, though not in content, you resemble your creator who has perfect faith in his creations because he created them. Belief produces the acceptance of existence. That's why you can believe what no one else thinks is true. It's true for you because it was made by you.
Unified needs lead to unified action.
Mm.
This idea of levels is interesting. There's just a I'd like someone else to explain the idea there about levels that he's trying to
It's so
explain.
interesting. I feel like we've gotten into this discussion so many times. I think Freddie was the one that brought it up. And oh, by the way, Freddie listens to all of our replays. So, huh?
Oh,
Hi,
good.
Freddie.
Hi, Freddie.
But I remember getting into a really deep conversation about levels, right? We were talking about the levels and they don't exist, but why do they say sometimes that they do exist, right? It's a
Hmm.
I think
very
that
good,
was Freddie. I think I remember that.
what,
I think that was
yeah,
Freddie. Yeah.
right? But such a good question. Such a good question. I know we've been down this path before, but of course, I've forgotten all about it.
Well,
Hmm.
basically, is that there's no difference in miracles.
There's
It could
like
be
right, there's no
it could be a
level of
worldwide one, or it could be a personal. I didn't trip. It's still the same. The miracles are miracles, no matter
yeah,
what. Good.
that is true. The glossary is not going to give us anything about levels. They're no fun.
Really?
No, not in the glossary.
Got my stuff in my.
Probably in the frequently asked questions. I should probably highlight these that we go back to so many times, and then I wouldn't have to try to find them all the time. Uh, da.
Little sticky page markers.
Right? Exactly. Uh, I love the part about anger is never justified. Uh,
It's a good message these days.
yes, it is.
Well, every day,
Every day, yeah.
not just these, but just seems to be so much fear these days.
That's one of the main reasons I don't listen to the news. I don't listen to all of this stuff on social media. I see the pictures and I'm like, nope, not reading that. Not going to be part of that. Christiane Northrup shared something really interesting that I did listen to, which was, basically saying that all of this division, all of this fear mongering, um, part of the illusion, obviously, but within the illusion, that it it's so obvious if you look at it. It's so obvious that one side is being fed this information and the other side is being fed this information just to create more separation and conflict, right? And who benefits from that within this world of separation and illusion? It's people with the money, right? So apparently, according to this thing I was reading, which we probably shouldn't even be discussing because it has nothing to do with Course in Miracles, it's all part of the illusion. Is that it's a it's a basic tactical war maneuver to pit one side against the other, so that they can't see what's really happening, right? So all of this is happening down here where someone up here, the puppet masters, are just doing this. Like, ooh, let's get this one mad. Ooh, let's get this one mad, and they're up here doing all kinds of things that they don't want us to see. Of
Well, they own the media, so they can do that.
course, of
It's a
course.
It's George Carlin has said a long time ago that they're keeping the poor against the middle class fighting so they can run away with all the money.
Which is why, again, the only place we can heal this is here and seeing the love in all of our brothers. So every time we see this ridiculousness about sides, we just have to say no. That is part of the illusion, a part of the game of the fear mongering ego
Because the
or
fighting shouldn't
whatever.
be down here. It shouldn't be on the horizontal. It should be on the vertical. So
Yeah,
put us all on the same level.
yeah, yeah. And there are no levels, right? So when you think of it in those terms, then we can affect change because there are no levels. But the only way to affect change is to not buy into all of those
Mhm.
rights and wrongs on this that are within our peripheral. We just have to stay focused on seeing the Christ in all of our brothers,
Yep. Including the rich.
including everyone. Exactly. Exactly.
And that's the hardest thing because they want us to fight, looking for reasons.
Oh, in all the wrong places.
Oh, they know the right places.
Yeah. All right. Shall we keep going or is there more discussion? All right, let's keep going. Ah, share my screen. On to distortions of miracle impulses. Your distorted perceptions produce a dense cover over miracle impulses, making it hard for them to reach your own awareness. The confusion of miracle impulses with physical impulses is a major perceptual distortion. Physical impulses are misdirected miracle impulses. All real pleasure comes from doing God's will. This is because not doing it is a denial of self. Denial of self results in illusions, while correction of the error brings release from it. Do not deceive yourself into believing that you can relate in peace to God or to your brothers with anything external. Child of God, you were created to create the good, the beautiful, and the holy. Do not forget this. The love of God, for a little while, must still be expressed through one body to another, because vision is still so dim. You can use your body best to help you enlarge your perception so you can achieve real vision, of which the physical eye is incapable. Learning to do this is the body's only true usefulness. Fantasy is a distorted form of vision. Fantasies of any kind are distortions because they always involve twisting perception into unreality. Actions that stem from distortions are literally the reactions of those who know not what they do. Fantasy is an attempt to control reality according to false needs. Twist reality in any way, and you are perceiving destructively. Fantasies are a means of making false associations and attempting to obtain pleasure from them. But although you can perceive false associations, you can never make them real except to yourself. You believe in what you make. If you offer miracles, you will be equally strong in your belief in them. The strength of your conviction will then sustain the belief of the miracle receiver. Fantasies become totally unnecessary as the holy, satisfying nature of reality becomes apparent to both giver and receiver. Reality is lost through usurpation, which produces tyranny. As long as a single slave remains to walk the earth, your release is not complete. Complete restoration of the sonship is the only goal of the miracle minded. This is a course in mind training. All learning involves attention and study at some level. Some of the latter parts of the course rest too heavily on these earlier sections, not to require their careful study. You will also need them for preparation. Without this, you may become much too fearful of what is to come to make constructive use of it. However, as you study these earlier sections, you will begin to see some of the implications that will be amplified later on. A solid foundation is necessary because of the confusion between fear and awe, to which I have already referred, and which is often made. I have said that awe is inappropriate in connection with the sons of God, because you should not experience awe in the presence of your equals. However, it was also emphasized that awe is proper in the presence of your Creator. I have been careful to clarify my role in the at-one-ment without either over or understating it. I'm also trying to do the same with yours. I have stressed that awe is not an appropriate reaction to me because of our inherent equality. Some of the later steps in this course, however, involve a more direct approach to God Himself. It would be unwise to start on these steps without careful preparation, or awe will be confused with fear, and the experience will be more traumatic than beatific. Healing is of God in the end. The means are being carefully explained to you. Revelation may occasionally reveal the end to you, but to reach it, the means are needed. All right. We're being prepared. Great to
There's
have you here, Cynthia. I wanted to say hi.
two words in this. I don't remember these words. They're pretty specific, but beatific?
It means beautiful.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And then there's user usurpation. Use
Usurpation. So usurping would mean to take the place of, right? So
okay, usurping I've heard, but you said usurpation, and I was like, usurpation? What does usurpation mean?
where is it? I'll look and take a look.
It's on in paragraph 3, 12, sentence 12.
Reality is,
Reality
yeah,
is lost through usurpation.
usurpation. Yeah.
Usurp. It's pronounced usurping.
Usurpation. So it's to usurp something would be to like you take the place of. So reality is lost through taking the place of.
And the
I'll have to read the first one. The strength of your conviction. Fantasies become totally satisfying nature. Becomes apparent to both giver and receiver. Reality is lost. So when you try to usurp reality, it's lost and it produces tyranny.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I know what it means, but and I know I've read this. I know I've read this at least 5 times, and and it's never bugged me before. But
right.
it's
I
like,
know. I think it's so funny every time you read this, it's like the first time.
yeah,
I really like the next two sentences in that third paragraph. As long as a single slave remains to walk the earth, your release is not complete. Complete restoration of the sonship is the only goal of the miracle minded. That's like, oh, I can't just like become enlightened and then check out and never have to deal with this. Nope.
Right?
Everybody, it's all of us together. We're not alone in this. Well, there's only one of us.
You hear that,
Nobody
Carl?
can
You
be
can't
left.
hide in your art room.
yeah, it's the path of the Bodhisattva. You're pushing everybody else through to nirvana before you go yourself.
Hmm. Okay.
And I
But
can
yeah.
too hide in my art room. It's just going to take me longer to get there. I'll get there.
And I like that he warns us, he's saying this at the get-go so that we don't, because we could forget that, you know? We could just think, if I could just get my little act together, then I'll be okay. And
Yeah,
no, no, we're not saved till all of us are saved. Isn't that another way of putting it? I mean, we're already saved.
right.
Yeah,
It's
and all
about
this,
seeing the Christ in your brother, right? Which is because you find yourself there,
Yeah.
and all this
right?
talk about fantasy, I love fantasy. I was gonna start watching the Lord of the Rings after I got off of here, but now it's like, oh my gosh, the fantasy is a good. Ay ay ay.
As long as you can find the love, right? Connect with that love. All
Yeah.
right. Any other thoughts about any of this before we continue on to chapter 2? All right, here we go. The separation and the at-one-ment, the origins of separation. Oh my gosh, how many times do we get this question? To extend is a fundamental aspect of God, which he gave to his son. In creation, God extended himself to his creations and imbued them with the same loving will to create. You have not only been fully created, but have also been created perfect. There is no emptiness in you. Because of your likeness to your Creator, you are creative. No child of God can lose his ability because it is inherent in what he is. But he can use it inappropriately by projecting. The inappropriate use of extension or projection occurs when you believe that some emptiness or lack exists in you and that you can fill it with your own ideas instead of truth. This process involves the following steps. First, you believe that what God created can be changed by your own mind. Second, you believe that what is perfect can be rendered imperfect or lacking. Third, you believe that you can distort the creations of God, including yourself. Fourth, you believe that you can create yourself and that the direction of your own creation is up to you. These related distortions represent a picture of what actually occurred in the separation, or the detour into fear. None of this existed before the separation, nor does it actually exist now. Everything God created is like him. Extension, as undertaken by God, is similar to the inner radiance that the children of the Father inherit from him. Its real source is internal. This is as true of the Son as of the Father. In this sense, the creation includes both the creation of the Son by God and the Son's creations when his mind is healed. This requires God's endowment of the Son with free will, because all loving creation is freely given in one continuous line, in which all aspects are of the same order. The Garden of Eden, or the pre-separation condition, was a state of mind in which nothing was needed. When Adam listened to the lies of the serpent, all he heard was untruth. You do not have to continue to believe what is not true unless you choose to do so. All that can literally disappear in the twinkling of an eye because it is merely a misperception. What is seen in dreams seems to be very real. Yet the Bible says that a deep sleep fell upon Adam, and nowhere is there reference to his waking up. The world has not yet experienced any comprehensive reawakening, or rebirth. Such a rebirth is impossible as long as you continue to project or miscreate. It still remains within you, however, to extend as God extended his spirit to you. In reality, this is your only choice, because your free will was given you for your joy in creating the perfect. All fear is ultimately reducible to the basic misperception that you have the ability to usurp the power of God. Of course, you neither can nor have been able to do this. Here is the real basis for your escape from fear. The escape is brought about by your acceptance of the at-one-ment, which enables you to realize that your errors never really occurred. Only after the deep sleep fell upon Adam could he experience nightmares. If a light is suddenly turned on while someone is dreaming a fearful dream, he may initially interpret the light itself as part of his dream and be afraid of it. However, when he awakens, the light is correctly perceived as the release from the dream, which is then no longer accorded reality. This release does not depend on illusions. The knowledge that illuminates not only sets you free, but also shows you clearly that you are free. Whatever lies you may believe are of no concern to the miracle, which can heal any of them with equal ease. It makes no distinctions among misperceptions. Its sole concern is to distinguish between truth on the one hand and error on the other. Some miracles may seem to be of greater magnitude than others, but remember the first principle in this course. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. In reality, you are perfectly unaffected by all expressions of lack of love. These can be from yourself and others, from yourself to others, or from others to you. Peace is an attribute in you. You cannot find it outside. Illness is some form of external searching. Health is inner peace. It enables you to remain unshaken by lack of love from without, and capable, through your acceptance of miracles, of correcting the conditions proceeding from lack of love in others. All right, so that's how it happened. Everyone who asks, how did the separation happen and why did it happen? Right here, chapter 2, first section.
In paragraph 4, he talks about nightmares. And occasionally I'll have a nightmare and I'll I'll yell out loud, and my husband will like just touch me and wake me up, and then I'll just fall right back asleep. I won't acknowledge it because I don't even want to wake up and keep thinking. And I told him the other day, thank you very much for waking me up. I'm not going to say anything. He's like, that's fine. And then because, and then I fall back asleep. But the point of that is that more and more I can realize I'm completely, I don't like wake up rattled by these nightmares anymore. I can remember as a child ones that stuck with me, actually, sleeping nightmares, but now they don't at all. And I can start to see life as also like those sleeping dreams, having no more reality and effect on who I really am than the sleeping dreams had.
Mhm. Yeah,
I feel I can just feel a peace when that thought comes to me when I need it.
mm, I love that. Anybody else have anything they want to share? I'm having so much fun with my dreams now, just because I know that they're part of this separated existence, yet there's something in the dream state that seems to allow a deeper connection with the collective consciousness, which is still part of the illusion, but it's also part of the connection to the at-one-ment if you choose to go down that path, to be able to connect to that one mind of all of the sonship, right?
I don't have nightmares, knock on wood, per se, that I've ever had, but I get recurring dreams. And that's where a lot of my artwork comes from, because I found that if I have these dreams that happen every night and it's the same one over and over and over again, that I'll draw it and then I can move on to new dreams. But until I get it out of my consciousness, that it's stuck there. So a lot of my
Yeah,
a
like a
lot,
song.
yeah, exactly. So that, but I'm I'm very happy with a lot of the ones that I drew that were stuck in my head. It was like I was meant to do them.
Yeah, I love that. So that's like your connection to the sonship.
Yeah, that's why I hide.
But they're finding you in your dreams, Carl.
Yeah, that's great. And then I can draw them, and then they're fulfilled in their existence.
There you go. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Any other thoughts? All right, let's keep going then. At-one-ment as defense, and I will reiterate too, I do realize it is pronounced atonement. I just pronounce it at-one-ment because it has more meaning for me when I say it that way. You can do anything I ask. I have asked you to perform miracles and have made it clear that miracles are natural, corrective, healing, and universal. There's nothing they cannot do, but they cannot be performed in the spirit of doubt or fear. When you are afraid of anything, you're acknowledging its power to hurt you. Remember that where your heart is, there is your treasure also. You believe in what you value. If you are afraid, you are valuing wrongly. Your understanding will then inevitably value wrongly. And by endowing all thoughts with equal power, will inevitably destroy peace. That is why the Bible speaks of the peace of God which passeth understanding. This peace is totally incapable of being shaken by errors of any kind. It denies the ability of anything, not of God, to affect you. This is the proper use of denial. It is not used to hide anything, but to correct error. It brings all error into the light. And since error and darkness are the same, it corrects error automatically. True denial is a powerful protective device. You can and should deny any belief that error can hurt you. This kind of denial is not a concealment, but a correction. Your right mind depends on it. Denial of error is a strong defense of truth. But denial of truth results in miscreation, the projections of the ego. In the service of the right mind, the denial of error frees the mind and reestablishes the freedom of the will. When the will is really free, it cannot miscreate because it recognizes only truth. You can defend truth as well as error. The means are easier to understand after the value of the goal is firmly established. It is a question of what it is for. Everyone defends his treasure and will do so automatically. The real questions are, what do you treasure and how much do you treasure it? Once you have learned to consider these questions and to bring them into all your actions, you will have little difficulty in clarifying the means. The means are available whenever you ask. You can, however, save time if you do not protract this step unduly. The correct focus will shorten it immeasurably. The at-one-ment is the only defense that cannot be used destructively because it is not a device you made. The at-one-ment principle was in effect long before the at-one-ment began. The principle was love, and the at-one-ment was the act of love. Acts were not necessary before the separation because belief in space and time did not exist. It was only after the separation that the at-one-ment and the conditions necessary for its fulfillment were planned. Then a defense so splendid was needed that it could not be misused, although it could be refused. Refusal could not, however, turn it into a weapon of attack, which is the inherent characteristic of other defenses. The at-one-ment thus becomes the only defense that is not a two-edged sword. It can only heal. The at-one-ment was built into the space-time belief to set a limit on the need for the belief itself, and ultimately to make learning complete. The at-one-ment is the final lesson. Learning itself, like the classrooms in which it occurs, is temporary. The ability to learn has no value when change is no longer necessary. The eternally creative have nothing to learn. You can learn to improve your perceptions and can become a better and better learner. This will bring you into closer and closer accord with the sonship. But the sonship itself is a perfect creation, and perfection is not a matter of degree. Only while there is a belief in differences is learning meaningful. Evolution is a process in which you seem to proceed from one degree to the next. You correct your previous missteps by stepping forward. This process is actually incomprehensible in temporal terms because you return as you go forward. The at-one-ment is the device by which you can free yourself from the past as you go ahead. It undoes your past errors, thus making it unnecessary for you to keep retracing your steps without advancing to your return. In this sense, the at-one-ment saves time, but like the miracle it serves, does not abolish it. As long as there is need for at-one-ment, there is need for time. But the at-one-ment as a completed plan has a unique relationship to time. Until the at-one-ment is complete, its various phases will proceed in time, but the whole at-one-ment stands at time's end. At that point, the bridge of return has been built. The at-one-ment is a total commitment. You may still think this is associated with loss, a mistake all the separated sons of God make in one way or another. It is hard to believe a defense that cannot attack is the best defense. This is what is meant by the meek shall inherit the earth. They will literally take it over because of their strength. A two-way defense is inherently weak, precisely because it has two edges and can be turned against you very unexpectedly. This possibility cannot be controlled except by miracles. The miracle turns the defense of at-one-ment to your real protection. And as you become more and more secure, you assume your natural talent of protecting others, knowing yourself as both a brother and a son. I love that.
Protecting others.
I love that. Yeah. Anybody want to share anything that came up with that reading? So much to think about. All right, then, shall we go on to the altar of God? Here we go. The altar of God. The at-one-ment can only be accepted within you by releasing the inner light. Since the separation, defenses have been used almost entirely to defend against the at-one-ment and thus maintain the separation. This is generally seen as a need to protect the body. The many body fantasies in which minds engage arise from the distorted belief that the body can be used as a means for attaining at-one-ment. Perceiving the body as a temple is only the first step in correcting this distortion, because it alters only part of it. It does recognize that at-one-ment in physical terms is impossible. The next step, however, is to realize that a temple is not a structure at all. Its true holiness lies at the inner altar around which the structure is built. The emphasis on beautiful structures is a sign of fear of at-one-ment and an unwillingness to reach the altar itself. The real beauty of the temple cannot be seen with the physical eye. Spiritual sight, on the other hand, cannot see the structure at all because it is perfect vision. It can, however, see the altar with perfect clarity. For perfect effectiveness, the at-one-ment belongs at the center of the inner altar, where it undoes the separation and restores the wholeness of the mind. Before the separation, the mind was invulnerable to fear because fear did not exist. Both the separation and the fear are miscreations that must be undone for the restoration of the temple and for the opening of the altar to receive the at-one-ment. This heals the separation by placing within you the one effective defense against all separation thoughts and making you perfectly invulnerable. The acceptance of the at-one-ment by everyone is only a matter of time. This may appear to contradict free will because of the inevitability of the final decision, but this is not so. You can temporize and you are capable of enormous procrastination, but you cannot depart entirely from your Creator, who set the limits on your ability to miscreate. An imprisoned will engenders a situation which, in the extreme, becomes altogether intolerable. Tolerance for pain may be high, but it is not without limit. Eventually, everyone begins to recognize, however dimly, that there must be a better way. As this recognition becomes more firmly established, it becomes a turning point. This ultimately reawakens spiritual vision, simultaneously weakening the investment in physical sight. The alternating investment in the two levels of perception is usually experienced as conflict, which can become very acute. But the outcome is as certain as God. Spiritual vision literally cannot see error and merely looks for at-one-ment. All solutions the physical eye seeks dissolve. Spiritual vision looks within and recognizes immediately that the altar has been defiled and needs to be repaired and protected. Perfectly aware of the right defense, it passes over all others, looking past error to truth. Because of the strength of its vision, it brings the mind into its service. This reestablishes the power of the mind and makes it increasingly unable to tolerate delay, realizing that it only adds unnecessary pain. As a result, the mind becomes increasingly sensitive to what it would once have regarded as very minor intrusions of discomfort. The children of God are entitled to the perfect comfort that comes from perfect trust. Until they achieve this, they waste themselves and their true creative powers on useless attempts to make themselves more comfortable by inappropriate means. But the real means are already provided and do not involve any effort at all on their part. The at-one-ment is the only gift that is worthy of being offered at the altar of God because of the value of the altar itself. It was created perfect and is entirely worthy of receiving perfection. God and his creations are completely dependent on each other. He depends on them because he created them perfect. He gave them his peace so they could not be shaken and could not be deceived. Whenever you are afraid, you are deceived, and your mind cannot serve the Holy Spirit. This starves you by denying you your daily bread. God is lonely without his sons, and they are lonely without him. They must learn to look upon the world as a means of healing the separation. The at-one-ment is the guarantee that they will ultimately succeed. All right, we must look upon the world as the means of healing the separation.
How could God be lonely if time doesn't exist?
That's a good question.
I mean, God, I can see how we could be lonely, but I can't. God, it's not really happening in his eyes.
Right.
None of this is.
Yeah, agreed, Carl. It's kind of a personification for our benefit, but it's, in truth,
That's what it seems like.
doesn't.
Yep, that's what it seems like, Mary. Which is really not in keeping with A Course in Miracles.
But this is early in the lessons. And so early in the lessons, there are a lot of things that after you've studied it, don't really make sense any longer. But that's a wonderful thing to realize that our consciousness has raised to the point where the stuff that's presented as an intro for people who are not vibrating on a higher level, that we see the differences, the inconsistency, if you will. And sort of another opportunity to have gratitude for our progress, if you will.
I'll be happy when there's no more time.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if they say anything about that in this commonly asked questions book, but I don't see it.
Uncommon question.
Yes. Yeah. Any other thoughts about what we just read or what I just read?
I wonder what true creative powers means.
What true creative powers means?
Yeah, like is it like God's like the power of creation? That kind of
What you mean when they're referring to our true creative power?
yeah. I wonder what that is.
See.
Probably just the same as God's.
Check the glossary, see if the
Yeah.
glossary has something to say.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of uninhibited,
Mm-hmm.
the knowing that we align, and when we're free and not burdened with separation and all of its fears and distractions and distortions, then we truly can create, because creating is just communing with the infinite unseen possibilities and then bringing them to the scene, if you will, or just enjoying them in their unseen form and playing with them in that form. We don't always have to manifest them, but difference in
Probably
playing
do,
in
though.
idea, imagination, and, quote unquote form.
But at that point, we're probably creating just by living.
Exactly. Every moment is an opportunity. And as you're having God's light, in a sense, shine through you, you are a creation creating.
So according to the glossary, creations is the extensions of our spirit, the effects of our creating, and analogous to the creation when God created his Son by extending himself. As extensions of Christ, our creations are part of the second person of the Trinity. Creation is ongoing in heaven, beyond time and space, and independent of the Son's lack of awareness of it in this world.
Cool.
Cool. All righty then. Shall we try to get one more reading in?
Yeah.
Healing as release from fear. Our emphasis is now on healing. The miracle is the means, the at-one-ment is the principle, and healing is the result. To speak of a miracle of healing is to combine two orders of reality inappropriately. Healing is not a miracle. The at-one-ment, or the final miracle, is a remedy, and any type of healing is a result. The kind of error to which at-one-ment is applied is irrelevant. All healing is essentially the release from fear. To undertake this, you cannot be fearful yourself. You do not understand healing because of your own fear. A major step in the at-one-ment plan is to undo error at all levels. Sickness or not right-mindedness is a result of level confusion, because it always entails the belief that what is amiss on one level can adversely affect another. We have referred to miracles as the means of correcting level confusion, for all mistakes must be corrected at the level on which they occur. Only the mind is capable of error. The body can act wrongly only when it is responding to misthought. The body cannot create, and the belief that it can, a fundamental error, produces all physical symptoms. Physical illness represents a belief in magic. The whole distortion that made magic rests on the belief that there is a creative ability in matter which the mind cannot control. This error can take two forms. It can be believed that the mind can miscreate in the body, or that the body can miscreate in the mind. When it is understood that the mind, the only level of creation, cannot create beyond itself, neither type of confusion need occur. Only the mind can create because spirit has already been created, and the body is a learning device for the mind. Learning devices are not lessons in themselves. Their purpose is merely to facilitate learning. The worst a faulty use of a learning device can do is to fail to facilitate learning. It has no power in itself to introduce actual learning errors. The body, if properly understood, shares the invulnerability of the at-one-ment to two-edged applications. This is not because the body is a miracle, but because it is not inherently open to misinterpretation. The body is merely part of your experience in the physical world. Its abilities can be, and frequently are, over-evaluated. However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in this world. Those who do so are engaging in a particularly unworthy form of denial. The term unworthy here implies only that it is not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. If one denies this unfortunate aspect of the mind's power, one is also denying the power itself. All material means that you accept as remedies for bodily ills are restatements of magic principles. This is the first step in believing that the body makes its own illness. It is the second misstep to attempt to heal it through non-creative agents. It does not follow, however, that the use of such agents for corrective purposes is evil. Sometimes the illness has a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to render a person temporarily inaccessible to the at-one-ment. In this case, it may be wise to utilize a compromise approach to mind and body, in which something from the outside is temporarily given healing belief. This is because the last thing that can help the not right-minded or the sick is an increase in fear. They're already in a fear-weakened state. If they are prematurely exposed to a miracle, they may be precipitated into panic. This is likely to occur when upside-down perception has induced the belief that miracles are frightening. The value of the at-one-ment does not lie in the manner in which it is expressed. In fact, if it is used truly, it will inevitably be expressed in whatever way is most helpful to the receiver. This means that a miracle, to attain its full efficacy, must be expressed in a language that the recipient can understand without fear. This does not necessarily mean that this is the highest level of communication of which he is capable. It does mean, however, that it is the highest level of communication of which he is capable now. The whole aim of the miracle is to raise the level of communication, not to lower it by increasing fear. That's always a great section. I love that section. So powerful, right? Sickness is fear. The end. Right?
Right.
And it also allows you to use any symbolic treatment that at that level of consciousness works for you. Because better to alleviate the fear and have a focus or a sense of safety than to say, oh no, all this is bogus, because the truth is I heal myself, which is the underlying truth. But if the consciousness is not there yet, it's fine to have some other form that you're putting your focus on.
Especially when sometimes when you think about healing yourself, you're focusing on healing the sickness that you are perceiving as being real, instead of focusing on undoing the fear.
Yeah, so then it's kind of subtle, but it's doing the same thing, because as you relax the fear and embolden the trust, if you will,
Right.
then your body is allowed to do the healing that it needs to do, whether you're conscious of exactly how it's working or not.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, again, going back to, we drive a car, but we don't know exactly how all the moving parts play into each other for that car to work, but it works. So.
That's true. I remember, it reminds me of when my son used to stay home from school, and he would have these horrible stomach aches because he was so fearful of his teachers. And when he would stay home from school, I would never treat him like he was sick. and make him stay in bed or not allow him to play, he would often ask me, can I go outside and jump on the trampoline? And I said, yeah, go jump on the trampoline. That would be so much fun. And sure enough, as soon as he got his mind out of the fear, his body felt better.
I've always found that if I go to work, I'm starting to feel sick. If I go to work, I don't think about it and it goes away. I'm not sick
Yeah,
anymore. If I lay in bed, it gets worse. Always. Because they're dwelling on it.
right. All right. Any other comments anybody wants to share before we close today? Great to have you guys here, as always. Thank you for showing up. And I'll see you guys next week. All
Thank you,
right.
Terry.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.